Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Lynnea.
And this is Dusted or Busted. They come in after Mrs. Kasha Davis's elimination. Candy Ho says exactly what I said, which is they're just keeping her around to send these other bitches home.
Exactly. There was a really just weird vibe in the workroom when they got back from the runway.
So they do this mini challenge, which is like the what you packin', whatever.
Monster in your pants.
Yeah.
Which I actually liked that it was a game and that you could figure out who
you could quantify it.
Right. I felt like it wasn't arbitrary like the other ones. My favorite moment though is when Katya's turn comes up and they draw the monster right away. She just flips out. She loses it. She's swearing and they're bleeping this and bleeping that. And it was the most entertaining thing about the entire mini challenge. And the main challenge is all about Miss Merl Ginsburg and how she was there for the first 2 seasons and then disappeared. So it's whatever happened to Merl. And they split them up into 3 groups to do the acting challenge. And the 3 groups are groups of 3. So somebody plays Ru, somebody plays Michelle, somebody plays Merl.
Their interactions as teams was kind of weird.
It was.
Because it was Pearl, Jaden, and Miss Fame, Max, Violet, and Candy, and then Ginger, Katya, and Kennedy.
Yeah. I thought that of the groups, the most dusted was Katya, Ginger, and Kennedy. They worked the best together. And then the most busted was Pearl, Fame, and Jaden.
I agree.
They just could not come to any consensus on anything, and they just really didn't play off of each other well, and they didn't rehearse well together either.
Yeah. I'm glad to see that Violet is improving not only in her performances, but just the way she interacts with the other queens. She's really turning it around, so that's good.
Yeah.
They move on to their, coaching, directing session with Ross. And Ross, I thought, was actually pretty good at what he was doing. He kicked their asses, but he was nice about it.
Yeah, it was, if nothing else, it was nice to have a little bit of a variety from what we normally see, which is Michelle and Ru working with them all the time. Because there's so many acting challenges, they had to switch it up somehow. Miss Fame had kind of a weird moment where she was getting, really emotional and just, she just didn't know when to stop talking. It was very awkward to watch.
Maybe that's why her makeup tutorials are so long.
It was kind of hard to tell.
It seemed like everyone's RuPaul character was bad.
I was just going to say, of all of the queens who ever played RuPaul, they all did poorly.
I think RuPaul would be hard to portray anyway. Michelle is easy. And the people who did Merl, I thought they did a really nice job. And I like that Max thought it out, that it would be from Michelle's point of view. That actually made sense to me. And I'm glad that when they got to judging, Ross brought it up.
Said something, yeah, instead of just letting that one go. Especially because Merle's not that much of a character.
No, but Max,
Michelle on her own is very much a caricature of a person. So that makes her a little bit easier to portray. And RuPaul's just over the top. But there's nothing about Merle that really stands out.
Pearl's makeup as Michelle, I was dying. It was so over the top and funny. It was hilarious. Before they get to the runway, they show them in the workroom, and we had a little kumbaya moment with Jaden.
With Jaden, she talked about her family issues and how her family recognizes that she does drag, but doesn't really approve of that. And she's not even formally, out to her family yet. It's just something they don't talk about. And that was kind of a nice moment because I feel like Jaden has been trying really hard to serve personality and humor and camp. And sometimes her efforts, especially in moments like Untucked, it just seems really strained and it seems like she's trying so hard. And I think in some ways that's been backfiring for her because she's having her Laganja moment. It's just too much. And so when we see a moment where she's really vulnerable and talking about these things, I felt like that allowed for the other queens to kind of rally around her.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's nice to see them all rally around her. And Max was saying it, Pearl was saying it, Violet was saying it. You need to do what's right for yourself. And then we get to Kennedy talking about her look. And she says she was morphosized into this glamazon.
That's not a word!
For someone who likes to read, she doesn't use the right words. So runway is death becomes her. How their drag character would die.
So first one out on the runway was Miss Katya, who her concept was that she was eaten by a shark, which begs the question, would you rather be bitten by a shark
or mauled by
a lion? Yes, that's what I thought of right away, which was really funny. And I did write down, it was very Willem, like with the hat and the wig and the outfit she had.
She was going for Tara Reid. It was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it.
Next up was Ginger.
She was eaten by a bear. So what she did was she took this regular black dress and then painted on, like, blood. And then took, like, this bear skin rug, basically, and put it over her body.
She wore a bear snuggie.
Kennedy was a burn victim.
And then we had Max.
With the heart.
With the heart cut out.
That was awesome. I loved that.
That was so conceptualized and so thought through.
And the makeup really reflected it, too. Mm-hmm. Like, the sallow with just like a subtle highlight here.
Candy was the vampire. I didn't really get that. I don't know what.
It was a good look, but it didn't fit the challenge.
I wouldn't say it was a good look. But
I thought it was.
No. Then we have Miss Fame, who had the knife through her head. That was your head? That was good. That was funny. And then we have Pearl with the plastic surgery, very Cher needles, and I thought it reminded me of the music video for Paparazzi by Lady Gaga. That's like my favorite song by her ever. So. I loved Pearl's look. Jaden had the barbed wire, which I liked it.
It was a good concept.
But it wasn't... She didn't bring that element of, like, high fashion to her look. It was very costumey, and they talked about that later, but that was something that I wrote down before that. And then we had Miss Violet coming
was
down...
cinched to 18 inches with that oxygen tank.
That was giving me life.
That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Most dusted.
I would have to say, because I think you're going to say this one. So I'll go with Miss Violet Chachki. That was amazing. And not only the look, but like her hair was right and her face was right.
And the way that she served the comedy of it. Like even when they came back on the main stage after Untucked, they announce her and she takes like a big huff from the mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she did a really, really wonderful job with that look. And yours was?
I was torn between Violet, but I'm going to settle on Max. Because I think the makeup was right, the hair was right, even though it was still gray.
That was really unfortunate because she had asked her to stop doing gray hair, and then the next challenge was about death. So, right. I mean, I don't really know what more she wanted, but... I thought
it was very challenge, artistic.
It fit for this challenge. The timing, unfortunately, came after she had been getting that critique for a while. Who was your most busted on the runway?
Kennedy Davenport. It's like J. Jolie's hair. Do you remember the hair thing that you wore? J. Jolie's hair thing plus the Coco Montrese. Do you remember? That was the one that they both lip synced to. Oh my god, it was so... Like...
It was bad.
She literally said she just threw it on and made up a story for it.
Yep. And, okay, so I was going to say Kennedy, but because you already said Kennedy, I will say...
Don't you dare.
Ginger.
Really?
Really.
I thought you were going to say Jaden.
Well... With Jaden's, at least I totally got how she died. Prison barbed wire, I got it, even if I didn't like it. Whereas with Ginger's, she came out and, I mean, she was wearing the bear.
You have to kind of take a second look at it. Right.
So maybe I thought she was in a hunting accident. After we saw all of their runway presentations, we got to see the finished product of their videos. And first we saw Merl's side of the story. I didn't really write anything down.
I didn't write it. I wrote like one note, and it was that Ginger as Michelle getting up was really funny.
And then we went to Michelle's story. I didn't have anything to say until we got to Rue's side of the story, which, okay, first of all, why was Michelle a gangster when they played her? They made her, like, I get she's from Jersey, but, like, she's no hood girl.
It was more like Tony Soprano in some
cases.
She's
not a hood queen. And then the whole ending scene of his side of the story where
they like mud wrestle in Jello.
Right? I didn't understand that at all. That was Well, it was supposed to be funny, but I didn't get it. I was confused.
The judging was all over the place this week. Michelle seemed to get very offended at some of the things, and it's not just, I don't think it's because they were playing up her and Merle's, like, so-called conflict, if there was one.
No, and there wasn't one.
No. It was a contractual professional thing. She was
really
so hard on people this week. Like, there's another thing, like, Ross was, like, good this week. I didn't hate him. Ariana Grande had intelligent things to say. What is going on with this world?
This was a weird panel, because the panel should have been all about Merle and Michelle. Like, that was the whole focus of the entire challenge. And then you have RuPaul in there. And then you have Ross, who always needs to say something. Now, he did have good things to say this week, but he's always got to get his 2 cents in, and it always has to be about Ross. And then you have Ariana Grande, who is supposedly this big superstar who just sat at the end of the table and was being completely overshadowed, even though she's one of the biggest names in terms of guest stars they have this season. So it's like they had too many different things going on at the judging table, and none of it fit together.
Mm-hmm.
There is a video of RuPaul doing some sort of an interview, and a viewer of the show he was on, I have no idea what that was, but called in, and because you could ask RuPaul questions, and they said, oh, Ariana Grande was recently a judge on your show, and I want to know on a scale of 1 to 10, how divalicious was she? Because she's kind of notorious for being a diva and having these, like, outlandish demands and just being very difficult to work with. And RuPaul goes, sounds like I have to do math to answer that question. And then the person who was hosting the show was like, oh, can't you tell us any more? And RuPaul was like, I'm not going to say anything on that subject. And I was like, you've just said a lot on that subject.
Yeah, holy shit.
Which is interesting, because I saw that interview before I saw the episode, and 2 very different things. Because RuPaul is alluding to the fact that she was quite a diva and difficult to work with, and the Ariana Grande we saw on the show, I thought she was very sweet, which I'm her worst critic. So I was like, for me, that was a difficult pill to swallow, to see that she had some good things to say. She's being very nice and all of that. So that's all I have to say on the judges.
Me too. Katya ended up winning the challenge because she was on the winning team and she was the star of that team. So good for her.
And had a good runway.
And the lip sync was Jaden Dior Fierce versus Candy Ho. Which, personally, I wouldn't have put Jaden in the bottom, but that's how the cookie crumbles. And it was to some low-budget Ariana Grande song, which I was jamming out to all day, to be quite honest.
I think they both did really well.
I think so, too.
Their styles are so different. Candy's very much the new pop scene. That's totally her. Mm-hmm. And Jaden is kind of the old school camp comedy. That's her. And so I think because of that, like, Candy was just predisposed to do better at this lip sync because of the song. And she had she even kind of looked the part.
Yeah.
I thought she had that high pony going.
The beginning of Untucked is Katya and Ginger and Kennedy.
It's just frustrating.
It was very uncomfortable to watch.
For only 3 queens to be in that room, there was so much going on. Ginger is getting so cocky.
She gets so mad whenever someone else on her team wins a challenge.
She does.
Do you remember?
Can't take anything. I used to live for all of her talking heads, everything she did. She was so funny. But it's to the point where it's not, it's just starting to wear on me.
The bitter old lady brigade is not funny
cute anymore. Oh my god, I'm so
Katya was real damn quiet. This Untucked. Not as much as she usually is, but she was still pretty quiet.
I wrote that. I said, I don't like how Kennedy and Ginger are talking about everybody, and Katya was there, but she's not the culprit.
She got her moments in, but she wasn't as bad as the other two.
And she would agree with things if they were true, but she wasn't going to add fuel to the fire.
I think Katya is a little bit more aware of how the show could affect her career afterwards.
Yes. She's smarter than people give her credit for, because she gets off on playing the, like, clueless drunkard, just kind of valley girl, but she's smart. And Then Kennedy is explaining her runway look.
Oh, Kennedy.
And it's a whole saga. I mean, she's got a whole trilogy of things happening to her. She was hooking out for the night, and then her trade that she was with didn't like it, and so he stabbed her and then tried to burn her. But then she crystallized?
She morphosized. And then they started reading every person's runway looks. And then they just went back behind their back when they all came back. And they're like, girl, I was living for this. Why were you doing this? Oh my God. Katya asked, how did Candy Ho die? And Ginger says, lip syncing for her life too many times.
And then
Ginger was impersonating Max because Katya asked, like, why does it take her 2 hours to do no makeup? Which I take issue with, but we'll get to that. Ginger was impersonating Max, and it sounded exactly like her.
That was hilarious. I did think that was really funny. She can do her impression.
She was getting back at Pearl and Max for last week. Mm-hmm. Girl! Max's makeup was so intricate this week, and the thing is, because it's so minimalistic, it looks like there's no effort into it, but you can tell she put a lot of time into that. It takes a long time to look that flawless.
Right. This is still just when the first three queens are in the room, and I just think everything Katya says is comedy gold. I think she is hilarious, and just the moment when Kennedy is speaking, and Katya just looks at her and goes, "Are you speaking English?" Because Kennedy can't enunciate anything. Oh, it was horrible.
You have to unenunciate in the suburbs.
Yeah, they just started hating on everybody, and I couldn't stand it, and I was very relieved when the rest of the queens came in, because I was like, finally something to just detract these girls from just bitching about everybody.
So the other girls come back, and it's still really uncomfortable, because then they start going in on all the other girls, and I think Pearl is the Untucked MVP this week, because she was not having it.
Candy brought up that she dressed for the lip sync.
Yeah, she decided she was going to lip sync, and she wanted to wear an outfit that was appropriate for her.
So this is another one of those girls who's just kind of ready to go home.
Yeah.
Which bothers me. But, I mean, Ginger is shady, and so is Kennedy. God. Those two, both of them can go. I've had enough.
They were fucking talking, and Kennedy was just sitting there making her stank faces, and Max finally has had it, and she goes, Kennedy, why are you making those faces? And Kennedy goes, I'm not making any faces. This is my normal face. My mama told me if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Which, for the record, is exactly something that Tyra Sanchez said in Season 2. And hand to God, I love me some Tyra, but she had her moments in Season 2. Now, when Tyra Sanchez said that in Season 2, Jujubee comes out and says, if you're going to say something like that, just say what's on your mind. Because when you say that, it makes you look like a bitch. And guess what? It made Kennedy look like a bitch.
Take a drink, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ginger was talking about how unoriginal people are and how Pearl's look wasn't original. And then I fucking love they cut to Pearl's confessional. And she goes, you're one of the most unoriginal drag queens I have ever seen. And you know what? I have to agree with Pearl. Even though I like Ginger and she's polished, she looks like any other pageant queen I have ever seen. With that hair halfway back here, painted on, and her makeup is always the same. Don't you be coming for Max with your same makeup you put it down the runway every week? Look how orange you fucking look.
Okay. Should we go on to the video message from Miss Fame?
Sure.
Alright. We get a video message from Miss Fame's mom, and I would just like to say that the apple does not fall far from the tree. They can talk and talk and talk. And then it was fine. It was a nice one. It wasn't super emotional or anything. It was nice for her to get that. But the moments I noticed were when they cut to Jaden, and she's got this stank face because it's not about her. I just noticed that, she had her moment, and every time they panned over or across the other girls, you saw Jaden sitting there. She looked annoyed out of her mind, and she just seemed really sour the whole time that she was getting that. And I was like, girl, you'll get your moment, don't worry. But right now, Miss Fame needs to have that. And by not being supportive of your fellow queens, you look the fool. Unfortunately, Candy, sashayed away.
Just when I was starting to really like her.
Right. And I said that for someone who, because she even said, she's like, I'm not an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she went really far because she had to endure a lot of acting challenges right away. And so for someone who's not an actor, she went pretty far. And I did think it was very nice that Ariana Grande went and talked to her and said, you know, congratulations on being on the show. I think you're great. Good luck. So that was a really nice moment. So for our quote of the week, mine comes from Katya. They've chosen their teams. They've divvied out all the roles. And Katya says in her Talking Heads, Ginger's going to be the evil villain, which is perfect because she's playing it like Ginger Minj, as Danny DeVito, as Tony Soprano, as the Fonz, as Michelle Visage. And I just thought that was so funny. And
spot on, really.
Yeah. But again, like I said, everything Katya says I think is just perfect. What was your quote of the week?
My quote of the week goes all the way back to the mini challenge. And Pearl is doing the mini challenge where she has to name the boys and get points. And she's gotten a couple of points, and RuPaul asks, who calls out to you? And in that, like, Pearl voice, she goes, Pete. And then Pete takes the monster out, and she goes, fuck you, Pete!
I do remember that.
So that was my quote of the week by Pearl.
I feel like so many of our quotes, it's not only what they say, but how they say it. And with Katya, with her just manic eyes, and Pearl with her man voice. Game over.
Oh, Pearl. So who is your most dusted of the week? We are not forgetting this week.
Dusted of the week?
Mm-hmm.
I have to go with Katya, and I know that's unoriginal because she was the winner, but I thought that she did the best in the challenge, and her runway looked really good.
My most dusted was actually Pearl, because, I mean, her runway look, I rated it mostly dusted. However, just from the mini challenge to Untucked to her looking like Michelle Visage, everything she did had me gagging and laughing, and she was so entertaining this episode.
Yeah,
so my most dusted was Pearl.
How about most busted?
Kennedy. No questions asked.
For me, it was between her and Ginger, so I'll go with Ginger.
Next week is Snatch Game. So there's not a whole lot to say about Snatch Game. We don't really know exactly who's going to be who yet, but Max is going to be Sharon Needles. Pearl is going to be Big Ange from Mob Wives. Kennedy doesn't know what she's going to be. She wants to be Little Richard. So... Jaden Dior Fierce is going to be Raven Simone. And there was a little skirmish between Miss Fame and Violet Chachki because they both wanted to be Donatella Versace. So they had a little talking to about it. And since Violet didn't bring any backup characters, Miss Fame decided to bite the bullet and go for the Long Island Medium. Well, then RuPaul does his walkthrough and talks to Miss Fame, and he basically says, you know, if you want to be Donatella Versace, do it. And it's up to you and Violet to outdo each other.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be interesting to see two queens do the same person and just have them duke it out.
I have a sinking feeling that with Violet and Miss Fame, it's going to end up like the season 4 Snatch Game, where everyone just tries to outdo each other so much that it's cringeworthy. And then they're going to be in the bottom 2, and then Miss Fame is going to go home, because Miss Fame cannot beat Violet Chachki in a lip sync.
That's very true.
However, if Kennedy does Little Richard, I think she's going home. Also, Jaden didn't seem like she could sell Raven Simone very well.
Well, in Snatch Game, yes, it's a standard, but let's be honest, it's another acting challenge. But at least they finally have to do something for themselves.
Individually,
it's not a group challenge, so that's good. I don't know who's going to do well and who isn't. I think this one is such a crapshoot. I think Katya might do really well.
I think Katya might do pretty well.
Because she can make anything funny. And
she picked someone crude like her, it would be easy.
Mm-hmm. She should just do Willem.
Yeah. I was thinking Ginger Minj should do Bruce Valanche.
So that's all we have to say for this episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. Thank you very much for watching, and we will be back next week to review Snatch Game. So like, comment, share, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts.
Cheers.
Bye.
Hi everyone! In honor of this week, we had to say goodbye to Candy Hope, so we're going to make something a little sweet. So we have UV Sugar Crush Vodka. This tastes like tropical fruit candy. So it's like Puerto Rican candy, like Candy Hope. So we're going to take a shot of this for each of our drinks. And then we're going to take another tropical ingredient, blue curacao. We're going to take an ounce of that. Add a splash of sweet and sour. Fill it with lemon lime soda. And finally, we're going to add just a dash of grenadine. And that is the drink for Candy Hope. Cheers!